Dowsers are so confident of their powers that they seldom bother to ask the fundamental question: are they just lucky, or is there a scientific explanation? My friend the magician, James Randi, tried to find the answer. In 1980, he went to Australia to challenge the diviners of the outback.
$50,000 were on offer to anyone who could unfailingly find water and metal buried in the test area. The dowsers were certain they'd scoop the prize.
It'll be the easiest day's divining I've ever had if the money comes forward.
The value is roughly...
First they looked for metal. Lumps of gold and brass were hidden in one of 10 boxes. The dowsers' task was to say which box contained the metal. But in 61 tries, they found it only 4 times. When the metal tests were over, the water was turned on. 11 dowsers paced the field. Hidden in the ground below were 10 pipes. The dowsers had to detect which one the water was flowing through. By chance alone, they had to be right 10% of the time, but the dowsers boasted they'd score at least 80% success. At the end of the day, the diviners gathered to hear the water results from scrutineer the Reverend Ted Noffs.
Out of a total of 50 tries, there were only 11 successful attempts, which was 22%. The total of everything, that is to say the brass, the gold, and the water, meant 111 tries were undertaken. There were a total of 15 successful, and that makes approximately a percentage of 12%. So the result was just a little over the 10%.
It would seem to indicate that dowsing as a force simply does not exist except in the imagination and in wishful thinking of the people who try it.
What are we to make of Randi's test for dowsing? The experiment was well designed, but I don't quite agree with his conclusions. The test for water and the test for metal were entirely separate experiments. He shouldn't have combined the results. The dowsers were hopeless at finding metals. They'd have done much better if they'd merely guessed. But the results for water are rather impressive. By chance alone, the dowsers should have been right 10% of the time. Their actual score was 22%. The odds are 100 to 1 against that happening by chance. So the dowsers were quite good at locating water. They weren't as infallible as they claimed to be, but they were distinctly better than Randi admits. I've been able to find only one experiment that suggests how dowsing may actually work.
On the campus of Utah State University at Logan, Professor Dwayne Chadwick is preparing the ground for the latest in a series of dowsing tests. He hopes to establish a connection between dowsing reactions and the Earth's magnetic field, using student volunteers hijacked on their way to classes. Before the test begins, Chadwick measures the magnetic field every foot along the path. Then he buries a piece of wire coat hanger in the snow, which will cause a distinct change, a distortion in the Earth's magnetic field.
Really hard.
The tests are designed to discover whether dowsers can detect changes in the Earth's magnetic field, like the one caused by the coat hanger. Any movement of the rods, a dowsing reaction, is carefully recorded. Chadwick got the idea from a local newspaper story.
I saw something that made me really wonder.
2 boys fell through the ice on the Snake River and were drowned. The search party couldn't find them, and a dowser came along and located them after the search party had given up. That got me thinking there must be some scientific basis on which that might work, because here's a whole river of water. Obviously it wasn't the water. And I postulated that the skates would distort the Earth's magnetic field.
Underground water also causes such distortions. Perhaps dowsers can tune into them. This might explain the basis of dowsing. But why should the rods twitch?
I postulated again that here we have the human body, which is really a conductor of electricity. And as you cut the magnetic field, this causes micro voltages to be induced into the tissues, the muscles. That shortens the muscle. It causes a slight misalignment of the hands, subconsciously, not consciously, and causes a dowsing response.
In a previous test, students dowsed a 60-foot-long path. Unknown to them, Chadwick had buried a piece of wire coat hanger at a spot 26 feet along it. The dowsing reactions were grouped in bunches, especially over the wire.
23 out of 25 people got a reaction within 3 feet of that spot. And statistically, of course, you could break the bank at Monte Carlo with those kind of odds. And we did show that they tended to get reactions where the magnetic field is changing.
The magnetic field is changing most where the graph is steepest, and that's where the dowsing reactions are bunched.
Based on our statistical evidence, I think there is a possibility that this is the mechanism by which the dowsing reaction occurs.